We are so excited when our students come to Friday night services, when they help to lead us. And as you get older, there are more and more opportunities to participate, more and more opportunities for leadership within our community. And one day, when you're a high schooler, you'll not only get to lead within our community, but you'll get to be a leader in the Jewish community, and you'll get to be a leader in our country. Now, what do I mean by that? I hope all of you become president of the United States. But just in case not all of us can become president of the United States, I do know that all of us will have the opportunity when you're in high school at Kol Ami to join us for a very special program where we get to make our voices heard, where we learn how powerful our voices are and learn to use them, not just for fun, but for things that really matter to us. So it is my excited honor to invite up the students who came with us to the Litaken seminar this year. So I invite up Becca Peoples and Stuart Lieber. If you hear your name, stand up and come up here right now. I'm looking right at you. Becca, Stuart Lieber, and Zoe Lee Rennert and Asher Rosenzweig, come on up to the bima. We are really grateful that not only did they lobby in our congressional offices last month, but also that they have agreed to share their thoughts with the community. We are so proud of them.
I'm Becca Peoples, and this is Stuart Lieber. Last month, we went along with our group from Kol Ami to Washington, D.C. to participate in the El Taken Social Justice Seminar, a program organized by the Religious Action Center for Reform Judaism. Over the course of 4 days, we explored D.C., celebrated Shabbat, learned how Judaism prioritizes social justice, and wrote advocacy speeches on topics we're passionate about. On the last day, we went to Capitol Hill to lobby in our Senators and Representatives office. Tonight, we are glad to share some of these speeches with you. As Reformed Jews, we are passionate about the issue of climate change. Due to climate change, summers have been hotter and longer, and winter feels shorter and warmer. Greenhouse gas emissions are one of the main contributors of climate change. And lately, we have witnessed an increase in extreme weather events in the U.S., including a massive snowstorm, wildfires, and hurricanes. If we don't limit the use of greenhouse gases, extreme weather will continue to happen more regularly. This especially hurts racial minorities who have a higher exposure to industrial pollution.
In Judaism, we highly value the practice of tikkun olam, or repairing the world. This is particularly important both in general and for this topic, as it instructs us to make choices that will be beneficial for not just our families, but for our global community. In a famous rabbinic midrash, the rabbis tell us about what God says. "Look at my works. For your sake I created them all. Take care not to spoil or destroy my world, as there will be no one to repair it after you." This quote is incredibly important to my Jewish identity as I strive to do my part in the betterment of our environment. If we don't do everything in our power to protect the climate, there won't be anyone later to take on the burden. The Talmud tells a story about the interaction between a sage named Honi and an old man planting a tree. The old man proclaims that the tree will take 70 years to bear fruit, which puzzles Honi. Wondering how the man will live to reap the rewards of the tree, he learns the old man's plan. He is planting the tree not for himself, but for the generations to come. Similar to the old man, if we don't leave a foundation for our descendants, the task becomes even more arduous. As Jews, we have a responsibility to leave a better world for future generations.
As a type 1 diabetic, the hotter summer days impact me more than others. I've experienced that the heat denatures the insulin in my insulin pump. When I'm outside a lot during extreme heat, I have to change my insulin pump more frequently. This is irritating for me, but for others who can't afford insulin, it can get expensive. People should be able to go outside and enjoy the nature without worrying about extreme temperatures.
The Polluters Pay Climate Fund Act would force the largest emitters of greenhouse gas emissions to pay into a climate superfund based on their fair share of emissions between 2000 and 2023. This revenue would then be used to support a comprehensive and equitable fund, a federal response to climate change impacts through investments in climate resilience, adaptation, disaster response, and environmental justice. Establishing a climate superfund is crucial to funding programs that will save American lives and trillions of dollars. A climate superfund is also a matter of fairness, as consumers currently pay 100% of climate damage costs through taxes, insurance premiums, and disaster recovery, while big oil companies rake in massive profits. It is time the companies that created the climate risk help pay to fix their actions. When we were in Washington, D.C., we urged Representative Latimer to co-sponsor the Polluters Pay Climate Fund Act in the House of Representatives, H.R. 1135, and Senator Schumer to co-sponsor it in the Senate, S25. By making polluters pay, we can fund a comprehensive and equitable response to climate change through investments in climate resilience, adaptation, disaster response, and environmental justice. The Polluters Pay Climate Fund Act is crucial to providing these needed resources and ensuring that regular consumers are no longer subsidizing the large corporations driving climate change.
Hi, my name is Asher Rosenzweig. At the Lataken seminar in March, I lobbied with two students from the Forum Temple of Rockland, New York, Jake and Abby. We decided to lobby on gun violence prevention, and we wrote this speech together. In recent years, death and injuries due to gun violence have increased massively. According to Gifford's Law Center, there were almost 47,000 gun violence-related deaths in 2023. A study conducted by the National Institute of Justice in 2017 discovered that 22% of U.S. gun owners purchased their most recent firearm without the use of a background check. As all of us who practice lockdown drills now, students shouldn't have to fear gun violence in schools. According to Giffords, 58% of gun-related deaths are suicides, and access to a gun triples that risk. According to Brady United, the assault weapons ban of 1994 compared to the 10-year period before it reduced the number of gun massacres by 25%, and the amount of people dying from gun massacres reduced by 40%. Researchers estimate that if the ban had still been in effect until 2019, 30 massacres would have been prevented, but unfortunately that ban expired in 2004. This issue is very significant to us Jews. As Jewish people, we acknowledge the enormous impact gun violence has on our community. We are inspired by the lessons in the third book of Torah, the book of Leviticus, such as, do not stand idly by while your neighbor's blood is shed. The Talmud, the central text of rabbinic Judaism, also educates us that one who takes a life, it is as through they have destroyed the universe, and one who saves a life is as though they saved the universe. Being proactive against gun violence will save numerous innocent lives and many worlds. We cannot simply sit and observe as Reformed Jews while thousands are being harshly impacted. This issue is something I think about every time I step into a synagogue or place of worship. My dad, as some of you know, is the head of our temple security committee. He has zero background in security as a guard or in surveillance. He owns a small IT company which helps people make websites, not be on the lookout for people trying to harm Jews in their holy place of worship. There was recently a large interfaith event at our temple with over 60 clergy and 1,000 people in attendance. My dad and I sat together where he was on his phone constantly checking his security cameras to make sure all attendees weren't in the way of harm. There were ordinary people ranging from elders to young people protecting doors to make sure everyone was in one room to keep them safe, in addition to the paid security and various police officers on the synagogue's premises. This isn't a job for a small IT company or owner. One recent example of an attack on a synagogue was in Detroit, where a car ran through the entrance of a synagogue while preschoolers were inside learning. This is why we take precautions here, but also all over the country. I think about this every time I step into Kol Ami for religious school on Wednesday nights, Shabbat services on Friday evenings, where almost the whole congregation joins in song to celebrate God's day of rest. Instead of singing songs, I'm aware of my safety and everyone else's due to the wrong people having access to the most dangerous weapons in human history with the intention of doing as much harm as possible. The assault weapons ban will prohibit the importation, sale, manufacture, transfer, or possession of an assault weapon. The ban would also require a background check on any sale, trade, or gifting of an assault weapon and require that grandfathered assault weapons are stored using a secure gun storage or safety device like a trigger lock. Additionally, the bill describes a large capacity ammunition feeding device as a magazine, belt, or similar device that has a capacity for more than 10 rounds of ammunition. Lastly, the legislation provides a way to prevent gun violence in our country and to protect the well-being of our citizens. We urge Representative Lawler to co-sponsor the assault weapons ban, H.R. 3115, demonstrating a commitment to safety and ensuring that weapons of war cannot be used to murder, maim, or traumatize our communities any longer.
Hi, I'm Zoelle Lee Renner, and I lobbied in Senator Schumer's office along with two. Is this slow? Sorry. Oop. And I lobbied in Senator Schumer's office along with two other students from the Reformed Temple of Rockland and Nyack, Scott and Ace. We focused on rights for people with disabilities. Students with disabilities are afforded a number of accommodations under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, also known as IDEA. Since the inception of this act, the number of students with disabilities has increased drastically. Over 7.5 million students are currently receiving special education services under IDEA, including myself and my friends Scott and Ace. Unfortunately, IDEA has been significantly underfunded. The federal government is required to pay about 40% of the expense, but has only been paying 16%. As a result, students are not receiving as much of the support as they need. However, schools are still required to comply with the mandate. In order to do so, the schools must utilize their own funding that could otherwise be used for other important purposes. Instead, this money is going towards hiring extra special education teachers, aides, and therapists. As proud Reformed Jewish teens, the education alone is not just a high priority for us, but equal education for all students, including those with disabilities. Judaism has long valued helping folks with disabilities since long ago as Torah. In the book of Leviticus, we are commanded, quote, "You shall not insult the deaf or place a stumbling block before the blind," end quote. Stumbling blocks come in many forms, especially in schools, and students with disabilities frequently have these stumbling blocks thrown at them from every turn, such as, but not limited to, inaccessibility due to lack of necessary accommodations, isolation from their fellow students, and unequal and or subpar educational opportunities as a result of the former. More often than not, they are a result of inadequate funding. The Talmud is another Jewish text which teaches us how education impacts not just this generation, but generations to come. We learn, quote, "One who teaches a child is considered to have taught that child and that child's children and grandchildren to the end of the generations," end quote. Education lays the foundation that a child will walk on for the rest of their lives, and we believe that the utmost care should be put into setting that foundation for all students, especially those with disabilities like us who are frequently left behind. Lobbying for disability rights and funding was so important to me because I myself am disabled. I like to refer to it as an invisible disability because it isn't apparent unless you really know what to look for. I'll admit that I'm quite nervous sharing something so personal about myself right now. It's something I rarely talk about in part due to the stigma surrounding it, but it would feel like a missed opportunity to not mention it. And if I could do it in DC in front of government officials, I could do it again here with my congregation. IDEA is so important to me. Since getting diagnosed, my life has changed for the better in almost every way possible. I understand myself more as a result, and I'm less hard on myself compared to before. I'm incredibly fortunate that my school has the resources and knowledge to accommodate me and my needs. These accommodations allow me to succeed and make the most out of my education where before I struggled. As I said earlier, I'm incredibly lucky that I've received and continue to receive the support that I get. Unfortunately, not everyone is as lucky. I would like to share the story of my friend Ace, who I met through Litaken and gave me permission to share this story. Ace has been a student with an individualized education plan, IEP for short, and for 9 out of the 11 years of schooling in elementary, For 9 out of the 11 years of schooling. In elementary school, they were in an occupational therapy program as part of their IEP. And despite going to a blue ribbon school in a moderately wealthy area in NYC, the special needs program did not have enough funding to run a proper OT program. H was in this program for 5 years, in which they sat on a rug in the slightly emptied out storage closet, where they were given as much motor skills help as possible. The OT therapists in the program did their best with what they were given given to help the students. However, it still wasn't enough to continue the program properly. A's had to stop attending this program early due to its lack of financial resources. With the help of the Idea Full Funding Act, things like this could be avoided, and students like me and like A's who need these programs in their schools will be able to get the help they need. The Idea Full Funding Act would require regular mandatory increases in IDEA spending to finally meet our obligation to America's children in schools. We urge Senator Schumer to co-sponsor this act, which would ensure that the federal government provides our public schools with the funding initially promised when the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act was first passed. This funding is critical to ensure students with disabilities receive the quality education they deserve. Shabbat Shalom.
So we don't usually clap on Shabbos, but if you feel so moved, now is a good time. It was an incredibly powerful weekend to spend with our teens. Melissa, our youth director, came with us also. It was a really wonderful time. In addition to these 4 amazing teens, also Samantha and Natalie Goldband were with us, and they lobbied on anti-Semitism and for our elected officials to pay attention to anti-Semitism. They were not able to be here tonight, but we were so proud of them as well.